Item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel is excused. Mr. Van Oz? Here. Mr. Mans? Here. Mr. Stoll? Here. Mr. Folbaum?
Here.
Item number 3 is additions or deletions to the agenda. Under item number 10, the chairman's report, I'd like to add the approval of a contract with CNS to provide geotech and survey work for the investigation of the pending airport runway project. Motion by Mr. Van Oz.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Stoll to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 4 is approval of the minutes of the study session of 11/17/14 and the regular meeting of 11/7/14. Those should have been included in your packet, and hopefully everybody's had a chance to review those. Motion by Mr. Van Oz,
Support.
supported by Mr. Mans to approve the minutes as submitted. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item is item number 5, which is the financial report for November 2014. And included in your packet is our financial report, which indicates that our budgeted revenues for the year is $831,160 revenue year to date, which is we're at 66% of the year, so we're 2/3 of the way through the year, and our revenue is at $593,144, which equates to 71% of our revenue. Our expenditures for the year is budgeted at $831,160, and our year-to-date encumbrances and expenditures is $506,720, and that equals just under 61%. So our revenue's at 71% and our expenditures is at 61%. Our capital reserves as of the end of November is $521,337, and our past due rent as of December 12th is $6,633, and our pending legal action, including our settlement plan, is a total of $8,629. And to date, our expenses on the east side of Hangar 1 is the expenditures is $239,508. So with that, Mike, anything that you want to add to the report?
Nope, you pretty much covered it. I was just going to point out that I did pull out for budgetarily to show after a request from last meeting. We broke out the east side of Hangar 1 expenses. The year-to-date expenditures also assumes our check we're waiting for that just got approved by the state for roughly $45,000, which is reimbursement for our emergency runway repairs. Once we receive that $506,000 number is the current expenditures.
Okay. Any comments or questions?
I have one,
Mr. Mans.
What's the fuel inventory, Mike?
I did not have a chance to get an updated number for that. The loads are still pretty high. They haven't changed too much from last month. I apologize. I didn't have an updated number. I have been trying to get a new load, or at least a half a load in with the amazingly low fuel prices we've been seeing here lately, but I'm waiting for our 100 low lead tank needs to get pumped down a little further to get a half load in and drop the price.
Mike, anything new on the $5,155 that's owed to us by Dan Scroziel?
Nothing new in the last month. We haven't had any progress on it. I believe it was 2 months ago we received about a $60 payment, I believe it was.
And they are continuing to operate on Macomb Street?
Correct.
Why don't you go knock on our door?
Any other comments or questions on the financial report? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to receive and file.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Folbaum,
Second.
supported by Mr. Stoll to approve to receive and file the financial report for November 2014. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 6 is our manager's report. Item 6A is the east side of Hangar 1 project update. Mike?
Just wanted to give a brief update on our project. The tenant is happy with the way the building is, or potential tenant's happy with the way the building's coming along. We're moving forward. The windows are scheduled to be completed early or late this week or early next week. We do need to do some minor masonry repair inside the building to make sure the windows will fit in there properly, just rebuilding a couple of the sills inside on the interior of the building. We think we have found a solution the engineer is looking into in the pits in the front. If you guys recall, we were having an issue with some of the sewer and drainage in there. His recommendation to date is to replace the broken sump systems that are in those pits. They're hardwired in. They basically just, the current recommendation, the cheapest way to do it will be to replace those rather than fill the pits and put a concrete cap on top. So the project is moving forward, and hopefully the windows will start getting installed, I would say late next week, early the following week.
Any idea, what I'd like to do is maybe before one of our meetings, walk over there and see the building, and, you know, it's, I guess I'd call complete state before the tenant moves in. Do you know any idea about when that will be, Mike?
I'm hoping for the 1st of February is
Okay.
a conservative estimate that I have. I'm hoping it'll be done by then.
Okay, well, maybe for our January meeting, before that meeting, we can stop over there, you know, 15 minutes before the meeting, just take a quick tour of the building.
Just to add to that, we've received some design and build proposals in for the heating and cooling. So that may be a fast track item as soon as we see what get these windows in, because we need to do something with it. I guess a discussion to be had would be, I'm sure the tenant is expecting some cooling as well as heating. I'm anticipating the cost to be somewhere around 70 grand for heating and cooling both floors.
Are we gonna need to have a special meeting to approve that, you think?
Probably,
before-
probably not. Being though I have if we get down to that and we start getting deadlined out in January, I'll do the same thing I've done before, is we'll take the proposals in front of the township board, get approval, pending your approval and review. If we get to that point. I don't think we will. Because I think this will go in pretty quick once we get started on it.
Okay. Any other questions for Mike on hangar 1? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 6B, which is the new airport website.
Just wanted to give the commission just a brief, quick overview. The township has spent probably the last 10 months renewing their website, giving it a fresh look. The airport piggybacked on their project. We were originally broken out from the township webpage. What I had done at this stage was decided to integrate them into the township page. To me, it made sense to do that. Our old website will forward to the new one inside the township page. It's just kind of the fresh look of the page. If you guys want to take some time, or if you get time, I'd say go through it. I'm still editing some of the materials in here, but we do have things for our Commerce Park in there. A little bit of the property goes over that, and then a lot of the pilot information will be under departments, and I believe municipal airport's also under community. So anybody coming into the area would be able to look us up. I would say if you get some time, just play with it and go through it, and any opinions are appreciated. But this is the new look.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mans?
do you have a listing of our current openings?
For rental spaces?
Correct.
Correct. It needs to get updated. It still has building 61, 62 on there, but it does have the offices in Hangar 2 and 63. I need to update let me see if I can show you. So you can go in building 61. I'd like to update the pictures and some of the descriptions, the old webpage. They basically transferred the information off the old webpage, which was difficult to edit and deal with. But I'm going to update some of the pictures and give a little more detail in there. See building 63. We do have the pictures that change and some of that, but you can see we're still in some of the editing phase, like how the words run off the page and things like that.
Mike, don't we have floor plans that we could include as well?
Correct. I plan to include those.
Okay, good.
Kind of update some of the pictures, give it a little refresh.
If we could, for the office space there, if we could show a floor plan that shows where the space is in the building and, you know, how big each of the spaces are, that'd be great.
Okay. Any other questions?
Any questions for Mike on the new website? Okay, thanks, Mike.
Mhm.
We'll move on to item number 7, which is our action items, and before us, we have, item number 7A is the Diboll sailing lease, and we have a, resolution in front of us that reads, based upon the recommendation from the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Manager, the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves a lease between Diboll Sailing and Groseal Municipal Airport. Terms of the proposed lease agreement are listed in the history, purpose, and explanation section of this resolution. And just by quick summary, they're entering into a 5-year lease that has a CPI increase in years 3, 4, and 5. And the lease commencement date is February 1st, 2015, with an expiration of January 31st, 2020, with no option years after that 5th year. Mike, anything, well, let me get a motion one way or another before we have discussion.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Mans,
Support.
support by Mr. Folbaum to approve the resolution. Mike, anything you want to point out that we need to know that, other than what we read in front of us?
No, not that really. The February 1st is still a soft date. I would say it's going to be roughly around there. That's what we're shooting for. But this is kind of to settle out with our new potential tenant and make sure kind of lock him in on the promise, the memorandum of understanding that we had signed. This is obviously assuming that he's getting an HVAC system that's suitable for his needs and 110 outlets. We have had some negotiation on the 110 outlets, whether he would be open to paying for the contractor to wire the building we'd credit and rent, or whether we pay for it. We're kind of going back and forth on that. I would say that's one thing in this contract that's still a little open-ended. The only correction I had was it is a CPI increase on every year. Sorry, the second year there looks a little confusing that the CPI is included at the end.
He doesn't use 220.
He has no use for 220. I was surprised even in the cutting tables for the sailing material are all 110 outlets. He'll need concentrated 110 drops in certain places. Like there'll be an area where a cutting table is upstairs. I think he said he'd need between 6 and 8 in one location, or 10, something like that. But nothing, no heavy duty power. It didn't sound like any 220 was necessary from our discussion so far.
Yep, that was my mistake. There is a CPI increase for years 2, 3, 4, and 5, so. Any further discussion? Obviously, Diboll is taking the entire part of our renovated space, so that's good that we will have a tenant to fill that entire space. And obviously, we're going to have a revenue flow for the next 5 years. So, good job, Mike. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is subcommittee reports. We have none tonight. Item number 9 is discussion items. Any discussion items? Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 10, which is the chairman's report. And the added item for the agenda tonight is a resolution that reads, based upon the recommendation of the Airfield Commerce Park Manager, the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves or authorizes to enter into a contract with CNS Engineering for runway 422 survey and geological investigation totaling $58,637.30.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Mr. Van Oz.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Stoll to approve the resolution. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. And this is to get a geotechnical report and a survey for the new, or for the rehab of the runway that we're hoping to get a lot of money from the FAA through MDOT to make a number of improvements. So that's the first step in starting that process. Next item on the agenda is item number 11, which is public comment. Any comment from the public?
Angelo, you're the only public here.
Good evening, Ange Pizzo, 21862 Newton. I did look at the totalizer on the top of the 100 low lead tank today. It said 3,800 gallons. Is that accurate to within any margin?
The clocks need to be adjusted. I'm trying to remember, there's one tank where it's good, one tank where it's bad, but we normally go off manual dip.
Okay. With crude oil hitting $55 today, is a load in our near future that would bring our price down from $5.88 to...
I would hope so. Before the snow falls, I plan to have at least a half load in to drop the price under $5 a gallon, or roughly around $5 a gallon. I'd like to see it low fours.
That'd be great. Yep, thank you.
That's all. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board? Guess I'd like to, just as closing comments, like to thank everyone for their volunteer work on the commission again this year. I know everybody puts a lot of work into coming to our meetings and attending to all the things that we have to do throughout the year. And I've been told by Mike that we will double everybody's pay in the next year, which is goes from 0 to 0. So again, thanks for all your help, and Mike, thanks for your work this year. And think we're moving in the right direction, and hopefully a couple of these issues like the runway and vehicle development will get straightened out here in the near future, and hopefully our revenue will look good for the coming year. So thanks for your hard work.
Thank you guys for another great year.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion by Mr. Fulbaum, support by Mr. Mans to adjourn at 7:29. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.
With liberty and justice for all.
We have everyone here except for Roger. Hoping that he'll show up later on. If not, we'll find out why. Everyone has an agenda before them. Is there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I have to get it.
I'm sorry, Jane, did you say something? Oh, okay. One thing I was thinking was that we cover old business on air, and then afterwards we can, continue with our work just talking about, questions for the township and, 2015 objectives. Is that something that we can generally do, or would that violate the Opens Meetings Act, Wally?
The Open Meetings Act doesn't have anything to do if you have no fiduciary things going on.
Okay.
You have the opportunity to have a closed session, and in fact, tonight was supposed to be
Yeah.
an unpublished, or not an unpublished, an untelevised session,
Mm-hmm.
a study session.
Yeah.
Door is open, doesn't matter where we sit.
Okay, just double checking. Does anyone have any problem with doing that?
No.
Okay, can I get a motion to accept the agenda?
I make the motion.
Okay, support?
Support.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Changes passed, so, next item would be approval of meeting minutes.
I just had a couple questions on that.
Sure.
One, I wanted to make sure that, under new business, there was a G/OS, that was the greenways and open space. And then, the other thing I wanted to get a little more clarity on was there a discussion to, they have a speaker in the future, Mr. Frederick, and I was wondering what his, a little bit more background on him.
I believe, was that talking about the city of Detroit with the, Wally, I believe you're the one that brought up that name, so if you don't mind telling Rob a little bit more about Mr. Frederick, I think you do more service than I could.
I have offered to discuss with our
transportation manager at Wayne State, his work on the various types of bicycle involvement that Wayne State has had. So I'm waiting to hear. If you would like to have him come in as a speaker, I will invite him. He or one of his representatives.
So he's a manager of the maintenance for Wayne State?
He is a manager of transportation systems.
All right.
I guess adding to that, the other name that I brought up was Todd Scott, the Detroit Greenways Coalition. At the last meeting, realized that wasn't put in there, but it's
It was
really
a-
neither here nor there. It was just a
The
discussion.
request
about-
was, the point was that if you want me to have him invited, I will have to invite him.
Okay. I'd like to add a little bit more to the meeting minutes. I know under number 1 with old business, the second paragraph talks about Mr. Will's concerns about the high school and middle school path and about $34,000. And I didn't see my discussion added in there. So I do have some suggested language, and everyone, you can feel free to modify this if